With Giannis and LeBron James
Without
playing
question.
such great basketball this year, I need somebody to offset that, so I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert.
I agree.
That worked out nicely for you.
That worked out nicely.
I don't think the game's over.
Welcome into Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. I'm your host, Josh G. Buck. Josh Buckalter. Follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com, and of course, follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at 30spod. That's the number 3 zeros and pod. Those voices that you heard were the NBA Countdown crew talking with Kevin Durant and LeBron James. You will see LeBron James in a moment if you're watching the stream, and you will hear LeBron James in a moment if you were simply following this via the podcast. Again, or I guess we should say, follow, like, subscribe, all those things, share everything for the podcast, rate, review, all the possible things that you can do to interact with the podcast. Please help us grow. But like I said, that is them talking about the All-Star draft that'll be taking place a week from Sunday, the NBA All-Star game. And yeah, it was quite entertaining to see in real time. And honestly, I don't know how anybody else expected it to go, because that's kind of the way that I saw it going as it kind of gotten to that point. But again, I digress, and we'll get there in a second. I do want to start off, before we get into the actual sports stuff, talking about frustrations over technical issues. If you could see all the things that just went wrong before I recorded this podcast, you would be like, damn, how'd you even decide to keep going? Because I swear I walked away 3 times. I promise you I almost didn't record 3 times. This has been the most frustrating. I think I started the ranting a couple of episodes ago. This one is not sports related. This is not something that typically would be about, but it's going to be about it today. Man, listen, I was this close. I was closer than the hair of the snail's butt. I was not going to do it. I promise. But we forge on, and we keep on trying to make the show presentable, right? Because, man, one thing about recording is when you have something that takes you out of the moment, right? The technical issues that throw you off your schedule and everything, it kind of can mess up the recording. It can mess up your entire flow, your entire mindset, and that was definitely at risk here. So I am glad, though, that I was able to pull it together, soldier on through, because it's such hard work to be doing this. I'm bullshitting. It's tough. It's tough to make yourself to get past that part, because it was very frustrating. But that being said, there is a lot of stuff going on. I think there's a game going on Sunday. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Maybe. Is there a game Sunday? I don't know. Maybe you've heard. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. Let's talk about it. These I almost called them St. Louis Rams. Oh, my gosh. The Los Angeles Rams are set to host, quote, unquote, because they are the visiting team, the Cincinnati Bengals this week, this Sunday, Super Sunday at 5:30, supposedly. You know how that goes. The kickoff is going to be a little bit later than that, but that's when the festivities are beginning in earnest. And honestly, there's been so much talk about it that I'm sure everybody's pretty much kind of wiped out. The whole 2 week in between the championship games and then the Super Bowl, I get it, for rest, and you want everybody healthy. By the way, there won't be Tyler Higbee, and I forget there's another person for the Rams that will not be active in this game, so that's something to keep an eye on, because Higbee has been a big part. Now, they did get good contributions from Kendall Blanton in the championship game, but let's see how much that can hold up an entire game with that Bengals defense that is very opportunistic. I'm not a big fan of them consistently, but I do know that they can make plays when they need to the most, and that's something that's key. And we've seen Matthew Stafford have some Detroit moments even here with Los Angeles. Now, that kind of leads me to my pick of the game, and I will say this: few things. First, I'm all in favor of chaos and seeing the Bengals win. But the other thing that I learned this week, and my 9 to 5, was that the stock market typically does better when an NFC team wins. And as a person who has dipped the baby toe in the stock market, I have to say, I am rooting for that to do well. So, that being this case, I'm going to have to still go with my chaotic side. It's not a big enough toe for me to overrule my chaotic side. I want to see the Bengals win. I like Joe Burrow. I've liked Joe Burrow since he came out of college. I've talked about it on the podcast when he won the championship down there in LSU. Talked about it when he got drafted first overall, and how there was debates over whether or not Cincinnati would actually draft him first overall. Like, come on, dog. I wish they would have. Went another direction. That would have been ridiculous. And then on the other side, I'm a big Matthew Stafford fan too, but I have to admit that he has got moments where he gives you an opportunity. And honestly, one of my favorite prop bets this week is first drive touchdown. And I know it's like, oh, that's like 50-50 or whatever you want to call, how you want to. I'm not a big gambling, like, breaking down the numbers and why the numbers are the way they are guy. I will tell you why they make sense to me. And they're skewed heavily towards not scoring, obviously. But why I like it is because you get plus money on having one of the two teams score. I think it's plus 164 on FanDuel last time I checked it. This game, by the way, is now at Rams -4. Should have got a 3.5. I didn't jump on it. Now it's too late. But the having one of the teams score on their opening drive is like plus 164. I like that because, listen, the Bengals are slow starters. The Rams, Matthew Stafford is prone to turnovers. That means either one of these offenses could actually get the ball as a second offense to touch the ball on a short field. That, to me, is worth putting down a little bit of chop to see if you can get something back. Now, again, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you why statistically it is the way it is, but that makes sense to me because we know what we know about these two offenses and these two quarterbacks. That being said, again, all of that, I know the public opinion has skewed towards the Rams, but we've seen Aaron Donald be neutralized. We've seen pass rushes be neutralized. And with that in mind, I have to still go with what I know the Bengals offense can do skill positionally. Like, you can talk about how Jalen Ramsey is a lockdown corner and they got the best front seven in the NFL. Okay, well, you still have two other good receivers in Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, and I believe C.J. Uzomah is going to be playing in this game. So Joe Burrow gets his tight end back too. I got to double check that before we get up out of here so I don't, let that one go off into the ether and be wrong about it. But I think that's the case. If and then you got Joe Mixon out of the backfield. Samaje Perine has been he's questionable. C.J. Uzomah is, by the way. Samaje Perine has been a nice change of pace back for them in that same vein. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, the Rams don't have a good defense, but the Bengals aren't short on weapons, and we know the NFL is skewed towards offense. Now, what I will say is if the Rams are able to get a lead, like, because the Bengals have been bad, or not bad, but slow starters on offense, that could be a problem because then the Rams are able to run the ball, and that's just classic football, though. That's not anything groundbreaking. I will just say, again, that bet about having one of the two teams score on their opening possession makes a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. And that's probably my one prediction, my solid one. I would say one of them is going to score a touchdown on their first possession. Might see a low in scoring after that, but I could really see that happening. Again, it's not guaranteed, but I think that's worth putting the bread down on when you look at the possibilities of one of them getting a short field offensively for their first possession. There's a bunch of other prop bets too, and there's some crazy ones. I think I saw one that said the what was their first drive gonna be, like the length of time for their first possession. Like, it was something that you just an absolute crapshoot. And another piece of good betting advice that I got is that if you're betting on things that are generally 50-50 propositions, like the coin toss, keep that off the sites and bet that to your family and friends and spouse maybe, but don't take that to the website. I do think that this will be closer than everybody wants to say. I see people talking about Rams by 10 plus. If the Rams win, I think it'll be within that 4-point margin. So I'm going to take Bengals + 4. I'll just take Bengals + 4 and live with the results of that. I wanted to get the Rams at -3.5, but I'm going to go ahead and ride with this Bengals + 4. And yeah, that's what we're going to do, man. We're going for chaos. Damn the stock market. It's already been roiled as it is and been to quite the up and down. Past year's been kind of rough. So yeah, I'm all for the Bengals going ahead and get the first. Cincinnati Skyline Chili is going to be everywhere to everybody who's down in. Now, I get it. I get it. It might come out similar to how it went in, but I don't know what it's just chili with spaghetti. I don't know why everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so disgusting and gross." You people are weird. Just gonna leave it at that. You guys are weird, man. Dang. The NFL did have their awards ceremony. Aaron Rodgers won his 4th MVP, 2nd in a row. He joined a short list of players to do that, and honestly left the door open still for his return to Green Bay, but also made it seem like he's very cognizant of their financial issues and could be moving on. I'm of the volition that he won't go anywhere. If he does, it'll go to like Denver. But I don't know if Rodgers is the kind of guy that wants to follow anybody who's had some kind of a legacy in that kind of team. And we know he's not going to go to Tampa Bay. We talked about that last episode. Not the last episode, because last episode was the interview with Barbara Chair Scott. The episode before that, though, discussed how he wouldn't follow Brady down to Tampa, even if Tampa was a ready-made situation for him. Similarly, he's mentioned Denver with Peyton. Is that long enough ago that it doesn't affect his thinking? He follows Nathaniel Hackett out that way. Who knows? But I do know that he's admitted that it's not as frosty between he and management up in Green Bay. The problem is, if you are making moves to restructure to bring him back, you are then probably reducing your ceiling. I'm not sure if you're raising you might be maintaining a ceiling, but you're definitely not raising your ceiling, and they're capped. And if you're gonna be capped, you might as well. There's no real path to progression. There's no real path to getting any better right now, as currently constructed, and they're gonna have to do the rebuild sooner rather than later. They've already started planning for it. Look, maybe it's some Bears fan in me that's trying to just shoo him out the door faster than he's ready for, but this might be a prudent time to make something shake. Just maybe. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year, and his wide receiver, Jamar Chase, won Offensive Player of the Year. And so they're going to this game as the underdogs, but they're the highly decorated team right now. They got guys who are, favored to be Super Bowl MVP. I've seen more people say that if the Bengals win, it'll be because Burrow is the MVP than I've seen the opposite or the same thing be said of Stafford with the Rams. So they're coming in as the underdogs, but they're definitely not going to be short changed. They're not going to be overlooked. They're getting the respect. They're getting all the proper due respect. And some people have even gone as far as say that they're going a little bit too far with some of the Burrow love. But you got his top guy, Jamar Chase, Offensive Rookie of the Year, talking about, he looks at Joe Burrow like a god. I'm not going to go that far, obviously, but that's what he said. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say about it, but that's what he called him. He'd be pretty Ricky what they called him, I guess. I don't know. But, Joe Burrow's done some special things at every level, and that's part of why, as big of a Matthew Stafford fan and proponent as I've been, I'm going to have to say that I'm going to just pick Joe Burrow and the Bengals +4. And honestly,
to help us remember
definitely
all
could see
of the beloved members of our football family we lost this year. Please welcome back.
That was interesting. Definitely could see them winning. Video just popped up there. I could definitely see the Bengals taking this game if it came down to it. So that's something to keep an eye on. Or not something to keep an eye on, but that's where I stand on this whole situation with the Super Bowl Sunday coming up here. I'm taking the Bengals +4. Again, Rams have the better defense. There's a video going around of one of the Fox Sports 1 hosts talking about how the Rams are the better team, but the Bengals have Joe Burrow. I won't oversimplify it that way because they still have really good talent around Joe Burrow too, but they got Joe Burrow. At the very, I gotta acknowledge they do got him. So the Rookie of the Year was Jamar Chase. The Defensive Player of the Year was T.J. Watt. The Bridgestone moment was Justin Tucker's 66-yard field goal. Offensive Rookie of the Year, again, Jamar Chase. Offensive Player of the Year was Cooper Kupp. Defensive Rookie of the Year was Micah Parsons, and we'll talk about him in a second. The other participant in this room with the Walter Payton Man of the Year, in this game rather, was the Walter Payton Man of the Year in Andrew Whitworth. But Dallas rookie Micah Parsons, Rookie of the Year, definitely has some DPOIs in his future if he stays healthy. And I hate that he's in Dallas. What's funny about that is I mocked him to Dallas before that draft and still hate that he's in Dallas. I feel like they're wasting. I'm a big Dak fan, too. You're going to know that. If you didn't know that, you're going to know that. I'm a big Dak Prescott fan. I feel like they're wasting him in Dallas. Two guys that I wish I could see elsewhere, but they're absolute studs. And honestly, the Micah Parsons thing, Jamar Chase is dominant as a receiver, right? But the domination that Micah Parsons displayed as a rookie, as an edge rusher, as a versatile weapon on defense, basically. I don't know if we've seen anything like that, and you've heard the comps, thrown around. I don't know if this is wrong in this case, though, with Lawrence Taylor. Now, I didn't see Lawrence Taylor play live, but I've seen highlights, I've watched videos, watched old games, and Lawrence, I think, was smaller and probably a little bit stronger because he was just nasty, a little bit wilder. But Micah is so athletic and so, again, versatile. He can do everything on the field, and it's insane to watch him play. It's insane that he's in Dallas. That sucks. That part really sucks. I hate that part. But Jamar Chase, again, stud. He said that the target's on Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's the one's got to stop him rather, not the other way around. So gonna be a good game. Gonna be interesting to see all of that. But the Bengals again. I got on all this because I just want to say Bengals are not coming into this underappreciated. If anybody wants to try to play that, they doubted us the whole way thing. Now y'all got recognition. Lovie Smith is back in the head coaching role, this time with the Houston Texans. He replaces David Culley, who got fired after 1 year. He was a pivot from Josh McCown. There was rumored that the Texans were really serious about hiring Josh McCown, and everybody wanted to talk about how, man, you know what? Lovie Smith is just being given the runaround. And I would say this. It's possible, but can we stop acting like Lovie Smith? I said this on Herd Tell. I was a guest on Herd Tell show with Andrew Donaldson this past week. Can we stop acting like Lovie Smith didn't guide a team with Rex Grossman at quarterback to the Super Bowl? I know that you want to talk about how his time in Chicago didn't end well because they faded, even though it was a 10-6 season, they faded down the stretch there despite him dealing with a ton of injuries that nobody wants to mention along with them fading. He went down to Tampa Bay, and they weren't good because they didn't have a quarterback. Now he goes to Houston where they don't know if they're going to have Deshaun Watson. And this was one of the things that was brought up in the conversation with Andrew Donaldson about the positioning of black coaches when they get the opportunities. If Love doesn't get a chance to work with Watson or another franchise caliber quarterback, then it's definitely a fall guy situation. I will say that just because that doesn't mean that Lovie is a fall guy inherently, though, because again, he's able to get a group to galvanize. He's able to fix a defense. And he can get guys to play as a unit. How long, how great they can be will ultimately come down to the offense and the quarterback position, however. And it's not specific to Lovie, but it's a trend among black coaches to not necessarily get that chance. We saw Anthony Lynn get it. Steve Wilkes kind of got it with the Cardinals before with Josh Rosen, who I actually just tweeted out, who was my biggest misses in evaluations in the past few years. But aside from that, it's very rare when those things align. I hope that Lovie gets a chance for that to align. I think that if he doesn't, it would continue along with what we think of this process as it is. But again, I would also just go to say, let's not completely dismiss Lovie as a guy who's not deserving of another chance. And that's really what I was getting at with him having led a team to the Super Bowl, is that let's not act like he's not deserving, okay? Like, you could talk about, they're just putting him there for a face. Yes, Lovie probably deserves another chance in the NFL as well. Just keeping it real with retread situation that we have, the way he probably deserves another chance as well. Keep it a buck. Critics were quiet over the Vikings and the Dolphins hirings for their head coach. The Dolphins hired Mike McDaniel, the 49ers offensive coordinator, and the Vikings are hiring Kevin O'Connell as their offensive coordinator, or as their head coach, the offensive coordinator from the Los Angeles Rams. Neither one of these guys call plays. Both of these guys work for head coaches who are known as offensive gurus, not just offensive-minded head coaches, offensive whiz kids, as it were, geniuses. So this is some bitter Bears fan stuff coming out here, but I recall the Bears hiring a defensive. And by the way, there was another defensive head coach hired in Texas. Now you can say the Texans, and they do what they do, whatever. So it's not the best comparison, but if you're so worried about Justin Fields' development, who, by the way, he's getting a coordinator who comes highly rated from a guy you may have heard of. We just talked about Aaron Rodgers. Maybe you know about him, Luke Getsy. So the worries over Matt Eberflus being a head coach and being defensive minded are that much greater than a head coach being brought in to fix an offense as an offensive-minded guy, despite never having orchestrated an offense. Okay. I just find it interesting that those things did not get brought up nearly as much as they were when the Bears are going through their process, which, by the way, went a lot faster than most teams who were out here on the search. But when it was going down, they were taking too long. They didn't know what they were doing. They were getting the runaround. And since then, they just built a strong staff that people seem to like. A staff that, by the way, has made it a point to emphasize that they will be building around the strength of their players. Something that they did not see. We have not seen from the last regime. I know, gasp. It's a novel concept. You build to the strength of your players. It's crazy to think about it. It's crazy. We talked about it with Barbershare Scott, how Ryan Poles came in and said that it made him upset to see how the linemen were leaving Justin Fields out there to dry. You can probably get about 4 or 5 new linemen then, dog. You probably keep Tevin Jenkins because he shows some nasty. Jason Peters, if he can get another, can he get one to 41? Can he go another? Probably not, right? You got some work to do with this roster, but they're planning to build around the strength of their players. That's encouraging because we heard it. We haven't seen it now. That's the other part. It's easy to win in press conferences in the summertime after you've been so down for so long. We'll see what they do when it comes time to put the pavement to the road or whatever the hell the saying is. But right now, the Bears situation and process and everything looks about as good as anyone, and it's not better than most. It's crazy how that worked out. Absolutely crazy. Switching gears. The NBA's trade deadline had quite the happenings going on. Ben Simmons and James Harden were traded for one another. And you know what? I messed up, so let's go back real quick before we do that because I got to talk about this. Andrew Whitworth at the NFL Awards show. He did the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And during his speech, he talked about a young Detroit Lions defender. And, well, you know what? I don't even want to keep on speaking over because I already tried to skip it a second ago. Let's make sure that we get to it because I'm jumping the gun here. And I'm a little, like I told you, man, technical difficulties throw off the whole mojo. So now I'm going to have to edit this in post and make sure that the podcast version of it is nice and smooth. And they're going to hear it and be like, what? No, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm just playing. You got to leave the flubs, right? Maybe. Who knows? Probably not. Anyway, this is going to be the video. Here's Andrew Whitworth at the NFL Awards accepting his Walter Payton Man of the Year award, talking about Detroit Lions defender Derek Barnes and the impact that Barnes said that Whitworth had on him.
Well, one experience brought it all together for me this year, and it happened to me on a football field. In our game against the Detroit Lions, I had a young player from the Lions run up to me as soon as the final horn went off. And I saw him sprinting over, and I didn't know what was going on. Like we'd known each other forever. I couldn't place him. It made me so nervous. Had I actually played long enough that like a coach's son or player's son is playing against me? He stopped that. He said, hey, man, you're not going to remember me. I'm Derek Barnes. You spent time with me when you were a young player in Cincinnati at the Boys and Girls Club, and it meant the world to me. You used to sit with me and talk to me about life, and I was just a little kid. I want you to know how much it meant to me. I said, man. He goes, you know what? The main thing I wanted to say, Whit, I made it. I made it to the NFL, Big Whit. Wow.
So there you go, Andrew Whitworth talking about Derek Barnes running up to him after a game and telling him how much of an impact he had on his career, literally giving him the credit for him making it to the NFL. Really touching moment, and honestly, it's one of the reasons why Whitworth won the Man of the Year award. 40 years old, oldest left tackle to start in the game in the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. So hats off to him, still picking the Bengals. My +4. That's all I'm going to say. So just want to share that good moment because it was one of the better moments. Aaron Rodgers gave his speech. The MVP gave his speech. Guess he wasn't silenced then. Whatever. That is what it is. Now, though, switching gears. Okay, the NBA had their trade deadline on February 10th and had some massive happenings going on with the trade of James Harden and Ben Simmons, along with Seth Curry and Andre Drummond on top of some draft compensation. Now, I am of the belief that this works out for both teams. And I think it works out for Philadelphia now because Harden's ready to go. And I think it works out for Brooklyn whenever Ben gets back into the fold. Now, they have to get Kyrie full-time too, but as recent reports are that's all going to be dropped pretty much in the coming weeks or months, whatever. This is a win-win. You got a disgruntled guy out of both teams, out of both situations, on the places where they can help. Now, I've heard some fit issues with Embiid and Harden and Philly and questions on whether or not both can be their best selves with each other. I've seen Harden mold this game to fit a lot of people. And every time that it happens, people claim that he wants to go back to shooting, but it keeps sounding like he doesn't. It keeps sounding like he wants to go somewhere where he can be a legit grinder with somebody. And I personally think that his play, maybe not his personality, but his play in Philly could match because he's just going to keep grinding. He's going to keep wearing you down. That's just, I know people want to talk about the fouls and all that stuff. He's strong and he gets to the rack and he scores and he just keeps doing what he does. James Harden was going to wear you down. Embiid is a troll. He's a big dude. He shoots the ball, doesn't shoot it great, but he said it himself. He's just long enough to make you respect it. He's a grinder. He's going to wear you down. I'm not so sure this won't work. Now, if they both stay simpatico, we've seen Harden run from several situations where he wanted something, got it, and it wasn't good enough. That is where I think the problem will lie. Embiid, if you say that Embiid ain't good enough, dog, it's you. Because there's not much more the man can do at 7 feet. He handles the ball. I'm talking about through the legs, crossing people over, handling the ball down the floor. I've seen it. Seen him bringing the ball up. This is probably Harden's best teammate. No disrespect to KD. But this is his most dominant teammate. I'm not going to go so far as some people, Kendrick Perkins, talking about this is the new Shaq and Kobe. I'm not going to do all that, right? But I don't see why they can't be dominant together. I just don't. I know that you could say, oh, well, Harden wants to have the ball. The best argument I heard was that it's going to take away from the other guys. That's possible. But those other guys have to realize who they're playing with and be ready at a moment's notice. That's part of the game. That's what it comes down to. This is a superstar-driven league, the NBA is. More so than the NFL. Far more. You have to be ready for it. And I think that that's going to be, I think it wins. Now, Brooklyn side. Whenever Ben gets healthy, Kyrie can work off ball now. KD can have some easier matchups defensively, right? Joe Harris and Seth Curry, whenever Joe Harris gets back in on the wings. Are you kidding me? That death lineup is nasty. Kyrie, Seth, Joe Harris, Ben, and KD. Whoa. With Ben running point, no less, at the 4 and locking down defensively. That's insane. And then they got Drummond out of the deal. I don't know. Look, you don't see often blockbuster trades be win-wins in the even intermediate term future, right? Maybe not immediate because Ben's not there yet. But in the near term, still it's a win. Whenever he gets on the floor, it's going to be a win. Now, I thought it was funny. They said that when the trade went down, he called KD and was emotional on for the phone, and I had to tweet out like, damn, Ben is emo as hell. It's cool, but damn, he was emotional. Thanking KD for believing in him and whatnot. At the same time, I have also been the one to tell you that I think a lot of what their issues are stems from Joel's insistence on being a troll no matter what. That's just what he is, though. So, I mean, sometimes it don't work with working relationships that way. But KD is a troll too, but kind of on the outside variety, right? He's kind of a guy that'll throw all the barbs for his teammates and he'll take all the daggers for his teammates until you really can't anymore. So I maybe that's where the appreciation comes from. But I just thought that was funny that he was emotional already. Like, damn, man. Damn. That shook up a lot of teams' plans. A lot of teams were, I think a couple of teams, maybe one team in particular, Atlanta, didn't make a move because they thought maybe they can get Ben Simmons in the offseason if the James Harden thing fell through. That's done. They got to pivot. They lost their first game after the trade deadline. They're coming out talking about how they were, happy they felt like they were turning a corner. They were 9-3 in their last 12. They're 9-4 in the last 13 now. Bad loss to the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs team that is like 13th in the West, 14th in the West, and was trying to sell off all of its parts at the deadline. Bad look. The Bulls came out and they responded well. They beat up on the Minnesota Timberwolves, the 7th seed in the West, who had been doing well. They've been an upstart team. Bulls pulled away late. That's how you respond when you get the vote of confidence from the upper management. I'm not sure what's going on with the Hawks right now. I saw Glenn Willis of Peachtree Hoops talk about how they are being enticed into attacking matchups rather than going to their bread and butter pick and roll offense, and I can't disagree with that at all. I've also been a big proponent of them. Their missed shots, we know their offense, fuels their defense. When they're not hitting shots offensively, they're not defending either. Because I think they're not really great defensively, but made shots allow them to get set better, and confidence on top of better technique and effort, always wins out. They are going to use the rest of the season to evaluate. But I'm not sure that the evaluation that they'll see from the rest of these 20-some-odd games, now 23 games I think it is left now, are going to be any different than what we saw from the first half of the season. And that, to me, would mean that they might have – now, again, we don't know what deals were on the table. We don't know what they – we know that they balked at a couple, according to Chris Kirshner of The Athletic. They rejected a couple of deals because the prices were just too high. And offseason opens up a lot more avenues. But it will get interesting if they don't turn it around and fast, because that was not the way that you want to respond. 136 they gave up to 121. 121 is to be enough to win you a game. They've only won, I want to say they've only won 2 or 3 games when they scored that many points. That's probably not right. No, they got a better record than that. They got a better record than that. I wrote it. It's for Soaring Down South. Check that out. That number was way off. I know they're not good when they allow 130 points. 120 plus points they're not good at. I promise you that. Not good. Not good. They've only won 2 games when they've allowed 120. That's the point. It's to the point now, again, people are questioning whether Nate's the right coach or whether the players should. I just felt like they should have tweaked the roster a bit. I'm of the belief that maybe they shouldn't have locked in Clint Capella for another, keeping themselves from being able to trade him this season. I was a big proponent of the John Collins deal. I'm wondering if that was questionable. Now, he did get hurt, so we don't know, but he played 20 minutes. It's not like he didn't play. Hurt his heel. We'll see how long he's out for. DeAndre Hunter, I gave him credit for diversifying his offense, but he has been inefficient. Simplify it. Go back to simplifying it, if that's the case. It's been a rough one for them. It's been a rough one for them. Cleveland was a team that made a deal. Some people are high on the deal, or some people are not. I like Karis LeVert going to Cleveland. I think that any team with a dynamic point guard, what they often miss out on is the dynamic wing to go with him. Now, you can say Karis LeVert's not dynamic, but he can do everything. He can do everything at a high level for you consistently. And I think that to me, that's dynamic, because there's so many specialists in the league in sports that a guy who can be a Swiss Army knife like LeVert can, I think, is invaluable to a team that has so many talented bigs with Mobley and Allen and Markkanen and Okoro on the wing on the other side. And Osman. Cleveland's building something nice. They're going to be good. They remind me of the Hawks last year. They're building something nice. We'll see what they do with them pieces in the offseason, but they're building something nice. I also like what the Boston Celtics did. I'm not a big Derek White fan, but in that system with those two, with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown around him, that's a great defensive trio. Jason Tatum can defend. Robert Williams is my boy. I like Robert Williams. I just don't know. Again, as I wrote for Soaring Down South, man, the Hawks are playing a dangerous game, not making a move, because 7 of the 9 teams above them at the time had made a move that day. So 7 teams that were already better than you, because you are what your record says you are. 7 of the 9 teams that are better than you improved themselves. Maybe this was a move to avoid the luxury tax this season for a team that they knew wasn't going to be able to win a championship. That's possible. And we're bordering on that being logical, because if you recall, when Travis Slank was going off on the players, he said, maybe I need to lower my ceiling for this group. Maybe that ceiling is still lowered. Maybe that's why you stand pat until the offseason. So, whatever it is, we'll see. It's disappointing rather than upsetting, if I say that, because you wanted something to happen, but I think the disappointment comes in when it's kind of the reality of the situation where, there's just not a deal where they're going to get good return on their dollar. They're probably going to not get even in the offseason, though, because the players aren't playing up to their potential. They just re-signed Kevin Herter. I don't know if that carryover, that kicker that comes in if he's traded, carries over to the next season or not, but they got some adjustments to make. The Bulls. I'm not so sure that the Bulls should be as happy as they were that they didn't make a move. I know everybody's happy that Pat Williams is supposed to come back at some point in the season. They know they're going to get Lonzo and Caruso, and Derrick Jones is going to come back at some point in the season. Vooch is still going to get pick and rolled on the defense. You're still going to have Zach and DeMar putting pick and rolls on defense. You're putting a lot on Patrick Williams' shoulders when he wasn't fulfilling his massive potential. He's got a ton of potential, but it's hard to say he was living up to it in the beginning of this. In the 5 games that we saw him this season, it's a lot to put on player. I'm not a big fan of waiting and seeing, because one thing that we know for sure in sports is that more often than not, your window to contend closes so much faster than it took to open. And I think that, any opportunity to not get better is wasted. That was a theme of the one that I wrote about the Hawks, is that, they risk, quote unquote, getting worse simply because they didn't do anything. It's tough. We'll see how it all plays out. And again, we'll revisit this some more when we see how some of these trades played out. The Clippers really snapped, by the way, getting Norman Powell and Robert Covington. We'll see when Kawhi and PG come back. But man, I really liked those moves. Those were good moves as well. We'll see though. We'll see. It's an interesting one. Dallas got Spencer Dinwiddie. Washington got Kristaps Porzingis, but Washington's like faded because Bradley Beal's out for the season. Lot to talk about. There's gonna be a lot of trade articles going out about the Hawks and who's going to come and who's going to go this offseason. I promise you. In the rest of the season, if they don't turn it around and fast, because, they're still in the play-in right now. They can still lose that because, again, Washington's right behind them. But on top of that, even if they make the play-in, are you sure they can beat anybody in the field? Will they? Are you going to be confident that they will in a one-game series when they come out as flat as they did against San Antonio? That's tough. That's going to do it for this episode. Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshieBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com, and of course, follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at 30pod. That's the number 3 zeros and pod. And be sure to follow the show, read the stuff on Last Word of Pro Football, Pivot Ain't Easy, and StoryNowSouth.com. And we got to get back to Pivot Ain't Easy and clockersports.com. Time has not been on my side, so I gotta do better with time management so I can get to pumping out some more content for both the Bulls and for Clocker Sports. But appreciate everybody for staying with and for joining, and the new people for following along with the show. Again, like, subscribe, share, rate, review, all those great things. And until the very next time, man, I think you already know what it is. That's the sound of the horns, bruh. We gone.